This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. We want to begin with North Korea reigniting its provocative behavior, testing 2 missiles over the past week. It's an unwelcome development as the U.S. continues to work to denuclearize North Korea through diplomacy. Meanwhile, America's military has confiscated a North Korean cargo ship. Leaders say it was used to violate international sanctions. President Donald Trump says he takes the North's latest provocations very seriously.
Nobody's happy about it. I know they want to negotiate. They're talking about negotiating, but I don't think they're ready to negotiate.
CBN News senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon joins us now with more on this story and what appears to be a new escalation with North Korea. So, Jennifer, what can you tell us about this cargo ship now in the custody of the United States?
Yeah, well, this cargo ship, ironically called the Wise Honest, was actually detained last year on its way to Indonesia. And the U.S. has now confiscated it, is now currently moving it to American Samoa. Apparently, according to court documents, money used to maintain and operate this ship, which was carrying a load of coal, was illegally funneled through unwitting American banks, which is a violation of American law. And so the U.S. has confiscated it. And like I said, it was carrying coal. And we know that North Korea's coal industry helps fund its nuclear weapons program, its ballistic missiles program. And so this was a bit of a win, I guess, for the U.S.
So is it rare for the U.S. to make a move like this, confiscating a cargo ship?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the U.S. will go after individuals or businesses when they violate sanctions, but this was a first. It's never confiscated a ship from North Korea. North Korea does have the opportunity to fight this in court, but if the U.S. wins, then the U.S. will actually get to sell this ship and keep the proceeds.
Real quick, Jennifer, what do Kim Jong-un's latest missile tests mean for the future talks between North Korea and the United States?
That's the big question. We know that Kim has faced tremendous pressure from U.S. sanctions, and you could say that this is him blowing off steam. In a recent speech, he said that he is still willing to continue talks with Trump, but he has set a deadline for the end of the year for the U.S. to loosen sanctions. But the big question, Ephraim, is North Korea ever going to be willing to give up its nuclear weapons? Many say the answer to that is no, and if that's the case, then the U.S. is never going to loosen up its sanctions. And so we're kind of in this vicious cycle. But for now, the lines of diplomacy are still open.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. The world's 2 largest economies are now in a trade war. We're talking about the United States and China. Negotiators from both sides met at the White House Thursday but failed to reach an agreement. There are plans to continue working towards a deal today, but for now, new tariffs are kicking in on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. The president announced the hike last week, saying China has backed out of its commitment to end the trade war. The president sees the conflict, though, as a win-win.
I'm different than a lot of people. I happen to think that tariffs for a country are very powerful.
The Chinese government responded quickly, releasing a statement saying China deeply regrets that it will have to take necessary countermeasures. Chinese leaders, though, did not specify what those measures might be. Chelsea Manning walked free from a jail in Northern Virginia Thursday. The former Army intelligence analyst who leaked documents to WikiLeaks served 2 months for refusing to testify to a federal grand jury. Manning is free only because the grand jury's term expired, but a new subpoena has already been issued, and she could be sent back to jail if she again refuses to comply. Manning's attorneys argue she is refusing to testify on principle and should not be sent back to jail. A military court sentenced Manning to 35 years for leaking the documents, but President Barack Obama commuted the sentence after 7 years. Pro-life activists will rally in Philadelphia today in response to a viral video of a Pennsylvania state representative harassing an elderly woman. In this video, Representative Brian Sims is seen harassing and threatening teenagers and an elderly woman who was silently praying outside of a Planned Parenthood clinic.
These are the kind of attacks that we can expect on Planned Parenthoods in the current administration. Shame on you, ma'am, for standing out here thinking you know what's right for other people's bodies. And don't convince yourself that what you're doing isn't extremely racist. How dare you? This is grotesque. This is the hiding, shameful face of those that judge at Planned Parenthood, and it's disgusting.
Pro-life activists Libby Johnson, Graham Allen, and Lila Rose have organized a pro-life rally that will kick off later today, and they've invited Sims to join them for a more civil conversation. Abby Johnson is encouraging those who cannot attend Friday's event to rally outside their local abortion clinics. We're going to have more on these stories and others on Faith Nation. That is this evening. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. A growing number of states are stepping up the fight against pornography. This week, Arizona joined 15 states where at least one legislative body has adopted a resolution declaring pornography a health crisis. The resolutions are based on a model by the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, which says research shows a link to pornography and a range of social problems. They don't carry the force of law, but have led to new laws blocking access to porn in places like public libraries. Critics say the threat of pornography is exaggerated and limiting access is a threat to free speech. You may recall when activists across the country accused Chick-fil-A of anti-gay bias. Years later, they attempted to boycott appears largely forgotten, with the company stronger than ever. As Heather Sells now reports, sales are surpassing restaurants like Wendy's and Burger King, and the chain is now set to become one of the third largest food chains in the United States.
7 years ago, the country's culture wars began to focus on Chick-fil-A. Its top executive dared to speak publicly about his views on marriage, and in turn, those comments unleashed a fury of protests across the country by supporters of gay marriage.
Chick-fil-A's values are not Chicago values. They're not respectful of our residents, our neighbors.
Big city mayors pounced and gay activists protested with what they called kiss-ins. The crime, Chick-fil-A CEO Dan Cathy's support of biblical marriage.
I think we're inviting God's judgment on our nation when we shake our fist at him and say, you know, we know better than you as to what constitutes a marriage.
Fast forward to 2019, and there's growing recognition across the media spectrum that the boycott ended with a whimper, and the culture has moved on.
They chose to keep doing well with excellence, with people saying my pleasure every time they serve you. And the reality is that's probably the stance we're going to have to take sometimes when we are unfairly maligned. Just keep doing well, keep doing things excellent.
Back in 2012, Pastor Choco de Jesus urged Chicago's mayor to welcome Chick-fil-A in the city. Today, he believes politicians see the economic growth that Christian businesses can bring.
I think we've just got bigger problems in our culture when it comes to education, when it comes to balancing the budget, when it comes to immigration. I think the culture is saying, why not? We need help. We need all the help we can get.
Of course, Christian businesses must still tread carefully in a society where social media can rapidly stoke faux outrage. Chick-fil-A faces challenges today, mainly on college campuses, where schools like Rider in New Jersey say the chain is unwelcome, based on its, quote, corporate values. It all points to a larger question, says Stetzer, and that is, can our society allow and perhaps even encourage businesses with diverse viewpoints that can help to drive local economies?
At the end of the day, culture is going to have to decide. People in culture are going to decide, can we have people who have different views on marriage and sexuality, yet have a business, whether it be a Hobby Lobby or whether it be a Chick-fil-A or whether it be a Papa John's Pizza, that have differences with the culture, or must they be driven out of town?
Heather Sells, CBN News.
Coming up, Israel just celebrated Independence Day and honored Israeli soldiers on Memorial Day. But hear how the Prime Minister is responding to a looming nuclear threat now from Iran.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to his children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has responded to Iran's decision to partially withdraw from a nuclear deal with world powers. The Prime Minister has been an outspoken critic of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal from the outset and applauded President Donald Trump's withdrawal from the deal last year. The country's latest move has provoked a strong warning from the Prime Minister.
We will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. We will continue to fight those who seek to take our lives, and we will thrust our roots even deeper into the soil of our homeland.
Iranian leaders frequently condemn Israel and call for its destruction. Joining us now with more from Israel is CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl. So, Julie, we of course appreciate you being with us. Less than a week ago, Israel was under siege with terror groups from Gaza launching some 700 rockets at Israeli civilians. What is the situation right now?
Okay, well, right now we have a ceasefire in effect, such as it is. You know, it's the first Friday of Ramadan here, so we're still waiting to see if there will be violent protests on the Gaza border like there usually are every Friday. The ceasefire, intelligence officers arrived from Egypt into Gaza yesterday, and they're trying to see how they can make the ceasefire last. You know, this has become kind of a habit that every month or two, Hamas or Islamic Jihad fires rockets at Israel, and then Israel responds, and then we have a ceasefire. So I think many Israelis, you know, as a result of the ceasefire last week, Israel agreed that they would allow tens of millions of dollars from Qatar into the Gaza Strip to help, ostensibly to help the people in Gaza. And but right away, Islamic Jihad said, well, those rocket attacks, that was just training for a war in the summer. So I think most Israelis don't really believe that this is a real ceasefire. It's just a brief break in the violence, and that probably eventually Israel is going to have to go in on the ground and really take care of Hamas once and for all.
And we know Israel marked Memorial Day and Independence Day. What was that like for Israelis?
Well, you know, we had 4 casualties. Israel had 4 casualties last week as civilians, 4 Israeli civilians. For the first time, Israeli civilians were killed since 2014 in a rocket attack. And so it kind of really made Memorial Day stand out even that much more, even though it's very, very a big thing here. It's not a day of picnics. It's mostly a day of mourning and people going to cemeteries. But, you know, Israelis are kind of amazing people. They really bounce back fast. And Memorial Day ends as Independence Day begins, and Israelis begin to celebrate. And the reason why they are so resilient is because they really celebrate life, and they go towards the future, and they don't sit around and say, poor me. They certainly know how to mourn, but they also know how to rejoice.
All right. Thank you so much, Julie. Much appreciated. And of course, you can get more on these stories and others this evening on Jerusalem Dateline. It begins at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel. Still ahead, the organization that's launching a counterattack against an enemy that has claimed the lives of our veterans. We head to the drop zone for Operation Restored Warrior. We've got the story coming up after this. Stay with us.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
It's estimated a veteran commits suicide each hour of every day, but one organization hopes to change that by helping vets to fight their way back to restoration. Mark Martin has the story.
Veterans fighting overseas not only suffer physically, but emotionally as well. Hidden battle scars that make life difficult back home. That's where Operation Restored Warrior comes in. To find it, CBN News traveled to the heart of Colorado. With its wide open spaces and large horse corral, the Four Eagle Ranch resembles something out of the Old West. But take a closer look and you'll see much more. Organizers of Operation Restored Warrior say it's a location where healing takes place. While the program welcomes all faiths, its core Christian ministry is the 5-day program called the Drop Zone.
A drop zone is a place in enemy territory where you go take that ground. And very often in kind of Christian environments, we refer to things as retreats. I'm going to go to a retreat. And that just didn't sit well with us as professional military men. It's like, well, why are we retreating? How about if we go gain ground? So we specifically call coming to a drop zone a counterattack. And that appeals to warriors.
That counterattack is threefold: rescue, rebuild, and restore.
Warriors come to this place because they're looking for hope. And often the enemy has just beat them down. But this is the place where they know there's some hope. And then when they get here, what they find out is that this is where healing is. And that hope and healing is here because Jesus is here.
The intensive program targets areas of the heart that need healing. ORW leaders hold to the belief psychology reveals Jesus heals, and say it's been proven hundreds of times. For participants like Navy veteran Paul Williams, the program can be a literal lifesaver.
July 2nd of this year, I had written a note, and I was ready to go. And it just didn't happen. You know, I went back to my truck to go get the gun, and you know, it wasn't there. So I just started praising Jesus with my praise and worship music and said, you know what, I need to give this ORW, Operation Restored Warrior, a really good shot.
And that decision led to victory.
I was able to open up to Paul, the founder of ORW, about all the trash that I've been carrying. And it felt so good to finally just let it out, you know. I can't thank this organization enough. I mean, I came here fighting for my life. and I'm going to walk away a champion. So I love them a lot, and I'm super thankful for it.
Former atheist Paul Lavelle started ORW 9 years ago.
Around 2008, I felt like Jesus just put in my heart that he had gifted me my whole life to rescue people. And I felt like I had a unique gift of healing as well, but I had no idea it had to do with anything spiritual. And about 2008, I just felt this nudge that I had to do something. ORW, our focus is to heal. And we bring Jesus into that healing process.
Army veteran Braxton Dunbar dealt with many things, including suicidal thoughts before coming to ORW.
I was definitely a broken man. Had a lot of depression and anxiety, a lot of anger, a whole lot of anger, and just felt lost. Really, just didn't know where my place was. Didn't know how to find my place either.
Dunbar accepted Christ during the drop zone and decided to get baptized.
The same individual that prayed with me, Jordan, kind of came to me and said, you know, you accepted him yesterday and you verbally accepted him into your life. Would you want to show the action of it? And there was no question at all. I said, absolutely, I'd love to.
Retired Air Force chaplain Steve Frick also received healing through the program.
ORW doesn't just help, they heal. And that's a little hard to hear when you first get here, but I'm telling you, it's true.
In addition to powerful sessions building up the faith of the men, the drop zone also allows time for recreational activities like fly fishing. What can they learn from this? Lavelle says it nourishes the soul, among other things.
The reason we do the activities is because it's part of a spiritual longing for a man to have adventure in his life. It's one of the core desires of a man. And so as part of this restoration process, we want to remind them that there is adventure out there.
Retired Command Sergeant Major Chris Fields is the drop zone lead facilitator. He too once contemplated taking his life and also lost fellow service members to suicide. Fields understands the urgency of going through this program before it's too late.
Don't wait another moment to reach out and to ask for help. I used to think that I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I ate barbed wire in the morning, and you can surmise what I did in the afternoon. But when I reached out for help, I'm stronger than I ever was. And it just takes one moment to say, okay, let me see what this is all about. And then let Jesus take it from there.
Mark Martin, CBN News, Walcott, Colorado.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream. The chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities. The chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Well, if your plans include a weekend movie, you may want to check out this review by our friends at Focus on the Family. Take a look at what they had to say about Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Welcome to Rhyme City, a celebration of the harmony between humans and Pokemon.
The movie Pokemon Detective Pikachu introduces us to a young guy named Tim, who lives in a world where these little fantasy critters called Pokemon are quite real. In fact, they're so prominent that you might well see one just wandering down the street in front of your house at any given moment. Now, as a boy, Tim had wanted to be a Pokemon trainer, but these days he has no desire at all to deal with these magical creatures. When Tim gets word of an accident that might well have taken the life of his estranged policeman dad, though, his attitude about Pokemon has to change. For when he gets to his father's apartment, he finds a little yellow Pikachu there, dressed in a deerstalker cap.
Did you just talk? Whoa. Did you just understand me?
He also discovers that while other humans can only hear the Pikachu say, Pika Pika, he can understand what the little furry thing is actually saying.
Pika Pika! Yeah, Pika Pika Pika, he's adorable.
You're adorable. They can't understand me, kid.
Can no one else hear him?
It's proclaiming that there's a mystery afoot involving Tim's dad, and only Tim and Detective Pikachu can solve it.
And if you want to find your pops, we're gonna need each other. No, I don't need a Pokemon. What about a world-class detective?
This colorful live-action adventure is filled with chuckle-worthy bits and a sweet father-son mystery tale. The wonderfully rendered Pokemon alone will draw in young video game fans. The kid-centric feel of this pick, though, tends to amplify its small problems, including light language issues and some bathroom humor that parents won't always appreciate. So I'll give Detective Pikachu a 3.5 out of 5 for family friendliness. For an in-depth review on this film or anything else at your local box office, visit us at PluggedIn.com. Plugging you into the movies, I'm Jay Roberson for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
It's graduation season, and a Florida man wanted to honor his late mother during his college graduation, so he put a picture of her on his graduation cap. The graduate, who we know as Alex, studied to become an attorney and recently posted on Instagram, "Mama, we did it! Lawyer in the making, graduate." Well, video of Alex and his graduation cap has gone viral with thousands of views. It is, of course, a very touching tribute to Mom. Time now for your Friday Faithful, and I leave you with this word on this Mother's Day weekend. God has given us all life, birth from the mother's womb. It is a high calling to honor and treasure. With that word, make it a fabulous Friday, a wonderful weekend, and an unforgettable Mother's Day. That will do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can always get more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And you can also watch CBN News programs throughout the day on the CBN News channel. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, on Twitter, as well as Instagram. Certainly hope you'll join us again right here next time. We'll see you. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.